I cheated and know our next map. I hate it when I do this. I accidentally look
That's fine
sometimes.
because the graphic's ready.
Thank you, graphic man, for saving me here. Tomb of the Spider Queen is where we're going for the final game, or potentially final game. I view it as the final game if Naventic does not find a way to recover, because it's a map where I don't see them getting an early game lead, but also over the last one, you know, taking the dude approach, riding the wave, the emotional roller coaster that kind of was for me, trying to take in the Zen. We saw Gale Force win or lose the entire early game here, so that broke the rules. I can't figure it out. I still don't have it figured out. I don't know what that factor is to determine these teams winning. It's not drafting. I can tell you that much. I know it's not drafting. It's not rotations. It's not individual team fight prowess. It is legitimately just who makes the most amount of errors in that game specifically, and it's not reliable before nor after.
Yeah, what we know, at least, is both teams should be hoping not to lose the early game too severely, because you put yourself in a hole on Tomb of the Spider Queen if you do that. So beginning of the draft shortly, I feel like this is, again, another battleground that could go to Gale Force or to Team Naventic.
Yeah.
Either way, I think both teams feel very comfortable on Tomb of the Spider Queen. No, Naventic likes to play there a lot, and obviously Gale Force eSports picked it, so they feel good there too.
Yeah, and I think the only thing I would say to weight it in one way or the other would only be, historically, Gale Force has been better on just wave clear and abusing a map, and Tomb complements that, whereas Naventic has been way more of a team fight focused team. But look at Infernal Shrines. Every objective that spawned, the team who actually had split pressure, Naventic. The one who didn't, Gale Force. So that, according to at least the game that we just saw before, Naventic was by far the better macro team. They just lost every single fight. They played the map better than Gale Force eSports. So if they do that again, in theory, this is a win onto this game. Again, it's just, my ability to gauge things seems just non-existent.
Yeah, that was what I was thinking, is seeing the Dahaka ban and then Abathur pickup was weird for Naventic.
Yeah.
All right. Game 4. Potentially the final game of the evening for HGC. Team Naventic with first pick, first ban, behind one game in the series.
Tassadar ban. So we talked about this before. Historically, when Tass was at the top of the meta, he was 100% he was 100% banned on small maps. On big maps, he made it through rarely, but once in a while. And with how impactful he's been, I wouldn't be surprised if he just got flat banned out.
He was left until the second pick team to deal with.
Yeah. His impact level is that high. I don't think he's that impactful. I think he's the first pick option, essentially, to go there. See, I view the Uther would be my second team has to ban that, not the other way around. Because I would, it's just, I don't know, it's interesting. They get it. They get the option at least. Genji is the ban. Is it Tass or a noob? Could it be something else? Am I missing something? A wild Gul'dan appears? I mean, they didn't snap lock, so.
Yeah, I feel like even if you wanted the Vala Ariel Tassadar, if you get Tassadar, you're not locked into anything too much. But I mean, I guess Gale Force could just take Vala Ariel, but then you still have Tassadar to enable other things.
Yeah.
Now. So sticking with another Naventic thing of picking one role, or banning one role, and then immediately picking another thing in that role.
I'm sorry, I feel like that means a lot more than it does, but I can't dissect it in my brain right now. Why? And I'm trying, for just the sake of your guys at home, I don't vomit every single thing that comes to my brain. It's close, but I try to refrain in some departments, especially when I'm thinking about it like this, because it doesn't. Why first pick? It has to have an overly synergistic characteristic with something else in the 2-3. Otherwise, you would risk waiting it out. There has not been a high enough priority into that department to bank and Gale Force 100% rotating it.
So more kill compositions?
Something to work
pick
with
comps?
the root or the dot specifically. A Nubarak Gray main, Gale Force raising the priority of G main. So what is it? Like I think it's Gul'dan. I don't want it to be. but I can't figure out what else. Or it's just a wild hair. They banned Luther and just were flat out, they were just like, oh, boys, we really want the support, like really, really bad.
If that's the case, do you think they'll see, or they will ban another support in the next ban phase?
I don't want them to, but it makes the most sense by that same logic, right? If they don't pick something overly synergistic, then yeah, that by their logic train, or what I interpret it as, it should make the most sense of just flat out isolating supports. But I just don't feel like that has near enough impact onto a draft. Way too many resources. It's viable in some metas, but this isn't one of them. So in this rotation for Naventic, Dahaka for the 1v1. See, they've, again, we've talked about Naventic and their Dahaka. They've found one of them. It is. Bob said, I don't want to be right. Like, just, no, dude. Ah.
So Malfurion for Gul'dan. We've got a single cam and a follow cam now.
I'm sorry. It's not even that it's that bad of a pick. It just doesn't.
You were hoping for something flashy.
Yeah, like if you're going to throw the curveball to me in a draft, starting with the first pick according to the bans, like it doesn't mean you have to, but if you're going to do it, like do something real like weird. You know, catch even the old Dread off guard. At this point, it's got to be one hell of a curveball if you can throw me off guard with it, but I'm ready. We got the Phoenix crowd out here cheering us on. Cameraman giving me the motivational speech.
You can make it through this draft, Dreadnought. We believe in you. Tyke is banned.
So Tyke is removed. Again, focus on not letting the map open up too much. Gale Force hitting the pause button on the control of the minion waves. Tychus can provide that. Again, it's a lot like Infernal Shrine's Tychus argument. So with this, what is the most proper ban for Gale Force? Or for Naventic? What do they need to remove on the side of GFE?
I think Gale Force is going to get Leo.
A Leo pick wouldn't be bad. That would actually be pretty solid. They do need, I would say, a Tychus, or they need a specific damage type, a consistent damage type. And with Greymane already picked up, I don't know if that's enough to argue for the Leo, but possibly.
What does Naventic not want to deal with? Do they ban Leo? They already have Dahaka.
I don't think I would, but
yeah,
they do. Now Gale Force just picks Illidan. Zag is it. Hold on, Zagara. Last pick Zagara here for Gale Force. I want something to really win the 1v1 into the Dahaka. And the only thing left is ranged heroes into the Dahaka. Gale Force was the first team to bust out the Zag. We know Zag's the most consistent to be able to deal with it, and she's best on smaller maps. Not as good as Dragonshire, but that's what I want as my 5 slot here. I want it to get real weird. There's no way they do it, but I want it to get real weird.
If not Zagara, what about something like Lunara? Scaling into the late game.
It's safe, way safer than the Zagara, not nearly as straightforward.
And does more in a team fight.
You said it, not me. That was rude. Hopefully she didn't hear it. Gosh, calm down, Gilly. Like, just
I'm a Protoss. I don't care about her feelings.
Putting on a blast.
You don't even understand.
No, I don't, actually. What are races in StarCraft again? I know that much. I have played that much.
If he doesn't exit the desk, I will kill him.
I got diamond.
The hunt is on.
I was diamond. I was a big deal, okay?
Oh, the big T.
My entire 2 weeks of StarCraft, I managed to play it up to diamond, and it was just like, this, can't do it.
Love it. Arthas, Lunara, pairing unfair advantage. Again, love seeing those two together. You've got Greymane as an executioner, even if Lunara wants to be more safe with Thornwood Vine.
But to counter the conversation when we were talking about Lunara before, Arthas is going to be the matchup into Dahaka, but you could swap it if you really, really want. So now it's just all about the last pick on the side of Gale Force. We didn't see the secondary support choke, so it's almost 100% going to be a Rhaegar, unless there's a major argument with these next 2 picks to deny that. Can't think of any heroes off the top of my head. It's now going to be, I think it's going to be something weird, like a Johanna, like Vala, I don't know, something panicked coming out for the, specifically the Warrior for Naventic.
Stitches, Vala.
Okay. I would have rather JoJo Vala with the Rain of Vengeance follow-up on Condemn, something like that, to be able to deal with it in the wave clear pressure. Stitches lacks the wave clear pressure, and Vala is not enough single target burst follow-up to the hook to justify. Roots, I don't think, are enough, and Gul'dan sucks at getting follow-up too. So I just would have liked to see at least more concentrated burst damage out of that last pick if you go into Stitches, or you go into the Vala and focus on the macro game, again, with the JoJo.
What concentrated burst damage did you want from Stitches with what was left?
Leeming. At least it can go and send most of the heroes on the side of Gale Force eSports from 100% to 50, whereas Vala will go
Leeming and Gul'dan into new.
I didn't high rotation go Dan, okay? I wasn't the first pick Malfurion.
Would help with Cocoon, though.
Again, Gilly, I'm a messenger here, okay? I'm not saying Dread's thoughts. I'm trying to interpret the thought process of the players.
Let's save some lives.
Morales.
Yeah, it's Aquaface.
Yeah, Aquaface has had a higher prioritization of Morales. Honestly, he's just had a different prioritization of supports, period, compared to every other North American support. There are a few North American supports that have unique flavors, like Tiger JK has been prioritizing the Karazim a smidge higher. June specifically also has been prioritizing Karazim a little bit higher than he has in the past. But Morales, that's an Aquaface thing. It was Brightwing before, it's Morales now.
Human Brightwing.
Human Brightwing. Not, you know.
Just kind of got a global.
Kind of.
Let me have my fun.
And she's got the button that gets a lot of heals out, at least when, you know, Brightwing was in her prime. She had that too. I like the draft on the side of Gale Force a lot more than that of Naventic. I think the Malfurion into the Gul'dan, like I said, I feel like I've laid it all out. Sometimes I don't like when we do this afterwards because I don't know what else to say. Like, I'll be like, I told you about the Gul'dan.
Let's just go into the game then. We're going into game number 4. I'm sorry.
Get it going!
No, I agree with you. It does feel like, regardless of what both teams ended up with, that Gale Force eSports was in control. They got everything that they wanted. They have a Nubarak. They have Arthas Lunara again. They have a Greymane who is just very strong. They have Wave Clear for the Battleground.
Yeah, and, you know, I think that's at least a reasonable segue here into a conversation point that you and I have talked about a lot off cam, but I don't know if I've ever brought it up on, and that is just about what does it mean to, like, win the draft, right? When we always talk about teams and they'll be like, well, this team won the draft, but, like, how do you win a draft? And that is always based off of how forgiving your composition is. And if your composition, according to the map and that of your opponents, if it is more forgiving than theirs, then it is more likely to be successful. And whenever that is the case, it is going to be the most superior draft. Naventic, much like when Dignitas drafted the Stitches and the KT and everything, it usually isn't the winning draft because it's so hard to execute. But they do it so well, then you're like, wait, this kind of changes the rules. It is a non-forgiving strategy because the level of execution and variables that need to align are so rare that it should not work.
Yeah.
But can you make it?
Who has drafted the composition with more of the burden of execution? Who is the burden on to be able to outperform? And in this case, the roots are there. Zuna did not hit the hook, but there are definitely possibilities. So even when we say that we like Gale Force eSports draft, knowing the players, knowing their comforts, knowing what works together, there's still definitely the possibility that Naventic is able to just come in, win this game, and take us to game number 5. There's a drag.
I mean, step number 1, standard meme. Anytime you're in Hero League, you queue up. You got Morales on the other side. There's only one goal. Focus the Morales. If they do that, even just one hook, that could be one dead Lieutenant Morales. And also, that's another thing to talk about. We do know Aquaface prioritizes Morales higher than others, but she's also one of the best to get Stitches hooked. Kind of.
Yes.
It's one of the best and the worst. It's a little bit of a mixed emotion. If they follow up with the drag immediately, it's pretty bad. Because you don't have Ice Block, you don't have anything else. But let's say they don't hit you with a hard CC and you can drop the Medevac dropship. It's top 3 out of all supports behind Brightwing because of Blink Heal. And then next I would say is Uther or Rhaegar are 50-50. Uther because you don't mind dying, Rhaegar because he's the most likely to get away.
Let's just say though, Gale Force eSports knowingly picked Lieutenant Morales into these Stitches and Dahaka.
Yeah.
So it's something they feel comfortable with, but there are fears of Dahaka rush talking in, forcing that medevac dropship, and off the back of that, hit a Horrify, hit a hook, something. You've got Twilight Dream. Team Naventic can make things happen in the time that Morales is in the medevac. That's what I'm excited and hoping that we see from Naventic in the engagements. Team Naventic, Vala went for the Hungering Arrow build that we most often see on Battlefield of Eternity. What do you make of this?
Self-sustained to be able to deal with 1v1s is typically the cases where we see, wow, nice body blocks here. Are they going to get this? They will. First pickup here going over to Gale Force eSports. Maybe going out a bit too far, but as long as Akaface is not in a threatening spot, and that little blue bar, not his out, the one right underneath it, shows any kind of sign of life, so will the rest of Gale Force eSports.
Yeah, all about the mana.
So it's either single target burst, self-sustain for the 1v1ing, are the two biggest arguments, or boss forcing. This is not a boss map typically. It's not at least viewed that way for the most part within the competitive community. So then 1v1s. Who do you need to trade into? You could argue the poke onto a Morales is really good if you can get double Q, because it's a single target burst and she can't heal herself. But other than that, I don't see a major reason other than just not dying into maybe a leaping strike later on.
Yeah, I was wondering about Lunara.
You can deal with Lunara and trade up into Lunara, which is a rare statement. She actually trades better into almost every single hero in the meta, at least.
Rest of the builds are as you would expect for the teams. BioShield now is nice for Gale Force eSports to have from Akaface. I think it's very likely we see Splintered Spear this time from K1 Pro. No Nature's Calling. Unless North America has just completely switched off of the Lunara that we know during the time that we've been casting the midseason brawl.
You've been gone too long, Gilly. We're over it. We're over the Splintered Spear. Back to the Nature's Calling. No, I agree with you. I think we'll see the Splintered Spear, but I've seen crazier things here today. Even yesterday.
What about Wild Vigor?
I mean, full AA build?
Yeah.
If there was a different way to apply your passive other than your Q or your one of your two heroic choices, which is honestly, in my opinion, the inferior one, I would say it's possible. Like, full auto build. The only reason I think Splinter Spear is such a useful tool is not the auto attack damage. It's not even getting the poison onto multiple targets. It's literally, I can AoE slow everything. And it's just too reliable to be able to get that here as a hero. And they agree. It's going to be the pickup.
There it is. Repeating arrow. Continuing Hungering Arrow build for Vala.
Laning phase has been dominated by Gale Force, which is not. It's something I would say you don't want to expect. Hold on, iDream. He's got Q build. This could be a kill. That's a lot of. Oh man, a lot of single target bursts whenever you go into the Q build. It's just when you see the Stitches and specifically the Dahaka Gul'dan, and Vala's pretty good at it too. Mouth, one of the better supports. Like, you view this macro intensive, wave clear intensive. Gale Force should not be winning this laning phase.
Yeah, agreed, especially with the Gul'dan.
Like, that just shows a bit of the problem with Stitches, number one. Number two, just the mentality here of Naventic. Like, they're trying to figure it out, how to properly respond to Gale Force eSports, but the fact this early turn-in was pretty easily contested. They haven't died for GFE, and now they're going to get a lot on top of this.
They at least don't get a kill on iDream, but that Web Weaver is really healthy in the mid, and they've already taken down the towers there. Naventic deals with top.
Oh,
Dahaka.
wow. That tap is huge. Things are falling apart. Naventic, they need to hold on as long as they can. The mid fort, this is going to be a moment. Naventic, they move forward. Can they get it? The hook doesn't land. The damage is there, but big impacts the man to fall, and 10 is being closed in on. The drag max range onto Akaface, but 10 is here, and Naventic is not. Just blink and you'll miss it.
One more kill to be had inside of the cocoon. And even some B-stepping. Nice timing of Impale, Burrow, but Michael Udall is there, as is the rest of the team. So, Biggie, maybe a little too far forward for where that fight was happening, but Gale Force eSports willing to dive underneath the fort, get the kills. And now it's 6-0.
It is. Naventic lost every gem they had, and they only managed to turn in 7 before that point. That makes this essentially near impossible to come back. Like, that's how bad losing that many gems is. Because if Naventic holds on to the gems, they would at least be able to be like, okay, here's the 10. Here's everything else that we can make happen after. Maybe we can get the turn in, and then hopefully we can get a couple of forts. But what we see now is Naventic is essentially on a very small tightrope. And if they just misstep a little bit, they're going to fall off, and it's the end of the video game. Because if they get killed this rotation here, they're going to lose now a 2, 2.5, maybe 3 level lead. They'll have way more of the map open to the side of Gale Force eSports. And most importantly, Naventic will not have any rebuttal gems, because if they can get gems to soak up here, they actually can get a counter turn in later. So even that small skirmish is absolutely colossal here for Naventic.
Army of Dead. Rotating down are the rest of Gale Force eSports, but they won't be there, should not be there in time to save Michael Udall.
He's alive.
Michael Udall lived thanks to his zombies and Gul'dan. Twice now, Gale Force eSports have been able to catch members trying to rotate in to help the team. Twilight Dream was used, but Fan stays alive. B stepping his way to success again. Gale Force eSports wipe Team Naventic twice in a row.
Just dominant. It all started with the attempt there to get the pick, get the isolation, but Mike Udall was able to pull away. And what I was talking about before, the tightrope. Will Naventic slip? It feels like they very much did. The 5-man drop means this is not only a keep, that they have 0 gems to their name, and this is a boss play immediately. Nice Horrify to zone away from the medevac. They just immediately leave Fan and go, all right, well, hopefully we can start this boss. Problem is, top web weaver's alive, and Greymane's turns out he's your best boss damage that you could ask for. So makes Naventic, or excuse me, Naventic getting that pick at least buys a couple of more seconds. But it's just that, Gilly. It's only seconds.
Naventic check on the boss. They're just going to risk trying to get it.
They should start it, yeah.
Yeah, they have Hungering Arrow build Vala. So she, with Monster Hunter, can take this down really quickly. Gale Force eSports did not have Greymane. So Naventic knew they had a man advantage. They have to make these kinds of risky calls now because they are so far behind. They've lost a keep. We're not even 10 minutes into this game. 11 kills to 1. Solely because Gale Force eSports twice has wiped Team Naventic in the early game.
Naventic, they did not push with this boss. So what that means, their thought process is they're waiting for the 15.5 into 13 fight. They have to not only get that fight, but Gale Force has to give it to them, because you can only be the one choosing to fight whenever you have the advantage so heavily, or you can shift the advantage heavily into your favor. When we find that 15-13 window, Naventic doesn't even have a turn-in. Like, Gale Force doesn't have to worry about boss. They don't have to worry about turn-in. They just go, we have no reason to fight you. Naventic is essentially playing for a fight that doesn't exist.
The only hope is maybe they could force it. There's going to be the cocoon. Breaks down really fast. Twilight Dream off the back of this too. Great Horrifying a couple of the members, but nobody can touch Akaface. And the front line of Gale Force is so tanky. But a lot was used. Oh man, on either side. There's only adaptation left.
This is it. Like, this is the window that Naventic has to make something happen. It's really unfortunate, the fact that they burnt resources to try and keep members alive there. And a lot of that came down to a new Barak forcing with the cocoon. Opening as soon as possible before the 13 window that Naventic, again, their body language, their rotations straight up said with their intent. And Gale Force is just going, okay, well, we're not going to give you that. And again, if Naventic doesn't have enough gems for a turn-in, and they also don't have a boss to threaten, there's no reason Gale Force has to move out on the map. They just go, we'll wait.
Gale Force doesn't have any gems for the turn-in either, though.
They don't, but as long as Gale Force doesn't sacrifice experience and they go trade into XP that's even with the experience, eventually hits a mark where Naventic has to play in and get the turn-in. If they do, if you play that perfectly, you should be roughly 2.5 levels still ahead of your opponents. Or you can just force with 16.
On this down too. The Howling Blast wasn't quite in conjunction, but it doesn't matter. Vola is popped.
I could hear it. It was an audible pop.
Yeah, I was meaning it more like at least Naventic doesn't have to deal with web weavers immediately at 16 for Gale Force 2. Hook. Oh.
Pre-cleanse even used there by Akaface. Both cleanses were used in the last couple of seconds for these teams. We've got a hook in about 8 seconds, Gilly.
Biggie's there.
Do they have the damage?
They have a Horrify, Twilight Dream. Ah, this is really rough.
Keep already down below 50%.
They need pick. They need a pick at least. They need to scare away Gale Force somehow.
They're going to look for the hook on retreat. None of those targets are ideal. Good route. A little bit of damage. Arthas dropping Army of the Dead.
Putrid Pile 2, Cocoon. Zuna is stuck. He's body blocked. He's down. He's taken out now.
And they interrupted Twilight Dream on top of that. The Horrify afterwards is going to be laid down. A nice route with responsive damage coming out from iDream. You can see Naventic trying to take that fight, but they're down statistically. So much stat in terms of damage. They're down talent tiers, the second most impactful. It's just going to be, can they get a turn in? Because again, 2 win conditions, one or the other, and one just doesn't exist. If they get that, they get the 16, and they force, maybe. But that, again, is relying on Gale Force moving into position and taking one of the few fights that they can lose the game.
The difference, though, is Naventic will have the gems for a turn-in. That makes it a little scarier for Gale Force, but honestly, Gale Force have all of their forts up, so they should not be scared for one turn-in. Curse Bullet, Zuna, oh no!
That didn't last long. He didn't even get around the sidewall. Just one Howling Blast, one Curse Bullet. See the value there of that talent. And now it's just going to be, when does Gale Force find their win condition? I'm just glad that I could bring up weird things today, and I feel like every case we've seen actually live play out. Where it's like, Tomb, hard to find win conditions. Gale Force has been bodying this whole game, and they're like, guys, we got to pick, what do we do? They don't do anything. They're just waiting it out, because again, it's all about which resources can I commit, when I commit them, and always making sure you get that follow-up.
Yeah, because the waves have been so pushed for so much of this game, it's been a difficult time getting gems for this next turn-in.
It's actually part of the Snap effect here. Tomb of the Spider Queen is the only map where the minion scale experience different than any other map. And it's because of that exact factor. At least I believe it's because of that factor. If how insane, because of the lanes, and it's not safe to move out, the experience is different through those to try and make it a little bit more balance overall.
This is the one fight that could get Naventic back into this game.
Yep.
To start the comeback.
They have to win it, though.
Drag. B-Kid has 38 gems on him.
There's Giants now moving on to core.
Yeah, he is also the best equipped to go back and deal with those Giants. He is the one needed for a turn-in. He was going to go back. Cocoon still goes out. B-Kid was stopped.
They don't even allow him to go back, actually. Now look at that. Big Impact survives. The root is there. Can they get caffeine? They can. The shielding onto the core is just now being removed, so Naventic has time. But look at that damage. The dream is there. Naventic's going to win it.
3-2, though, and the core is falling 84%.
The Giants, okay, they're getting how much in auto attack? 3% for 2 catapults? There's no way that goes below 50%.
Dobster!
But wait, the Night Camp through mid.
Consube Soul.
Oh my gosh.
Back.
Okay, Dahak is back. We find ourselves at the 50% mark. Fan is a staggered death. Just waiting on this is in the best interest. So how much time do we have? 25 seconds. Boss is up. Oh, Gilly, that's a pretty big old wrench there. Boss being up, Naventic has to turn in and boss play.
Yeah, they
and then
their
all
too.
in.
No.
But that's enough.
Oh,
they stalled it.
Just enough.
He's a miracle.
Oh my gosh.
He did it.
Oh man.
He just stopped the window for Naventic to be able to come back.
K1 Pro, destroyer of dreams.
One deer.
To rule them all.
Oh man, no way. This is.
Oh, up.
Force the cocoon. Even a cleanse. Stitches is still shown on mid. Bottom Web Weaver is joined. 20's nowhere to be found. Greymane is not alive. Wait, they're going through top? Gilly, this means free clear on mid Web Weaver, free clear on bottom.
Yeah, I guess it's just
they needed to go bottom.
Take out the keep and then get the boss?
The reason, yeah, see, the boss is their win condition.
Yeah.
But the problem is that being top Web Weaver, the last man standing, it's a free clear on mid,
Naventic
a free clear
right
on bottom,
there.
and they can immediately respond. Gale Force essentially has to bait the boss into a Stitches, which you never want to do.
Yeah, but
or
Gale
win right
Force
now.
will have 20. Hook.
Is that truly
Roots, Mike, horrified.
fear? Nobody goes down. Nice Howling Blast. Look at B-Kid on the backside. He got the burrow. The Twilight Dream. Mike Udall is down. Now Lunara too. Look at Naventic just turning it up.
The cocoon was used, but iDream is ready for battle, chasing down. Everyone else got slowed down. The fan went back in. Root save iDream. 53%. Naventic holds the core. They still have the gems for a turn-in. They're clearing out their base. They got to do something.
What? Turning in is as good as it gets. Tomb is such a unique map, man. I love watching this kind of stuff. It makes everything so much more important, even though it doesn't seem like it. You know what I mean? Like Cursed and Tomb, both times. Like every time I try to be like, this means a lot more than it seems. But like, until you see games like this, you go, oh, that makes a lot more sense now. It's like why this can be so hard to figure out what you do when you do it. Like literally Lunara getting a turn in, that stalls out the entire game. Like legitimately makes this Naventic can't come back immediately. Then we see them stalling out, they go for the hybrid boss play, they get it on top, and you're like, well, this is when the comeback happens, right? They have the Web Weavers behind, but if they fail this, they can't, where do they end? Again. And the fact that this boss is being cleaned up for free, those Web Weavers are being stopped. Gilly, now the only win condition for Naventic is that top Web Weaver. So now they have to open up every other part of the map then. That's what they're deciding to do.
They have a second turn-in phase behind this.
Yes.
At least.
At least, but
And they have 20.
that means that they now are saying we don't want to fight. Because the problem on banking on your second turn-in is now you're saying we aren't going to fight or lose somebody, or at least lose those gems.
Yeah, it's risky.
Top's dead. Middle will be cleared next.
Stitches is flanking, watching for a potential pick target. All right, mid. Dahaka's hanging out bottom. They're setting up for that hook.
See, I'm just waiting. He has no fishing hook, so that's not a realistic distance. Stitch's hook at that range goes right next to the well, roughly, for anybody at home wondering. Mid Web Weaver down, bottom soon to follow. See, you're now banking on this turn-in, right? You're essentially saying that we'll be able to get it. We didn't want to fight you because you're relying on the secondary turn-in, but now you're saying that you have a better, like unless you have a territorial advantage, I don't see the argument of saying this fight is better than the other one.
Right, having the boss, having the Web Weaver up in the top, could have pushed in with it too, a Stitches to try to hook a Horrify to drag Dahaka. There is a lot of ways for them to get the fight off of that to win the game.
And they're going to go in. This is going to be it. They already knocked the Cocoon out with so much damage onto iDream. The Horrify is there, but it is too late.
Man, so much had to be used to try to take down the Cocoon, and it was at the detriment of Naventic. Twilight Dream, though, has done a lot of damage. Hook pulls in Michael Udall, but that is not the target.
Yeah, gave him the old loop around there, and now this is now Naventic, a man down. They are on the retreat, but they can't let them move to the core. They have to fight away from the core.
I just love that hook. Oh no, that's Arthas. Who's gonna slow me? I'm just gonna bolt away from this. Gale Force, no turn-in.
Are you
taking some bruisers?
They're gonna try and end with bruisers on mid, or why would you not just end right now? They think that they need the bruisers HP onto the core. Okay. Now, Naventic, they should just all in. Fight off of core is the most important thing. Caffeine's not going to let it happen. Immediately goes in. Udall is already there, too. They've let them go too far. This should be it, Gilly.
And drag pulling Fan off the court, but this is 23 minutes into the game. The damage of Gale Force eSports should be enough, although B-Kid takes down Lieutenant Morales. It won't be enough to save the game, nor the series. Gale Force eSports wins, but Naventic brought the fight this series.
They did. You know, for being the, according to current standings that we saw before, Gale Force being the 3rd place team in North America to what was last place, not the series you would expect. Yeah, the numbers, if you told me it went 3-1, but the games to be that close, to be that not confident and dominant from one side, it means a lot here for both of these teams, I think. Granted, Gale Force has 2 new members. They have a lot to learn and a lot to grow from. They had a very common mistake, like throughout every one of the games, which is when do we win? How do we win? Where Naventic goes, we just need to find a way to stand a chance into these games, and at least that sign of growth was there from them. It's exciting to see it, but it's just I mean I can't. I said it before. Every time we see that version of Gale Force, they come out, and it's just another one where I do feel a little bit more disappointed. The only variable here is I do know, again, Fan was at the midseason brawl, so the amount of practice that this roster has actually had was limited by that.
Yeah, and K1 Pro was switching over back from Melee to his original role and played Medivh magnificently. The synergy was already there with the team, so you can see the opportunities for Gale Force eSports, but I see it too with Team Naventic. Biggie to come in and play support. Yes, he played some secondary support here and there, but to immediately come in, do that well as he did, yeah, there's going to be room for improvement, but I'm looking at Biggie and I think about Buds and how much he grew throughout Phase 1 when he had switched over, right? And knowing how amazing of a player Big E is, I'm really excited to see how far he can go within the support role.
I completely agree. You know, just the potential he had at the range assassin is just, if he can translate that over, you even heard from Casanova, the difficulty it can be to learn those new roles, not just off of like, can I press those spells? What do I do? When is the Divine Shield worth it? When is it not worth it? What is the time I need to die? Like, that's just one hero, right? And there's so much more expansive. So completely agree. But his play on range makes me faithful that he will grow to be a great support.
Yeah, I'm very excited for that. We've got Fan here with us to talk to us from Gale Force eSports. Hey, Fan, congratulations on your victory. How was practice coming back from the mid-season brawl?
It was actually a little bit rough, to be honest. Like I got back 3 days ago, so obviously we've been scrimming with a sub for like the past 2 weeks. And then on the day that I flew back, I got really, really sick from post-DreamHack flu. So yeah, honestly, I was a little bit worried for today where I'm not at 100%. I don't think our team is at 100%, but I'm really happy that we managed to get the win anyways. So, yep.
What are you guys' goals throughout Part 1 or even all of Phase 2?
I mean, we made our roster changes pretty much, you know, last part and every part for one reason. Like, we want to be #1. Like, getting like 3rd and 2nd in the previous splits, that's not what we're looking for. We're looking to be a, you know, world-class contender. So that's really the only goal. We really want #1, and hopefully this split we can, you know, achieve it.
I just had to ask because we were talking it up here. It seems really weird to see Fan, King Caffeine, and K1 Pro, like all names, sit side by side on the same team. So does it feel like, communication-wise especially, I can see that like just kind of clicking certain things from your guys' time in the past, or do you feel that in-game at all, or is it just kind of non-existent and it's all creating something from scratch?
I think there's definitely some of that synergy. Like, I'm very used to following up Calf and like K1 in particular. I've played with him on just like double range for so long that I kind of just always know where he's going to be. So there is some sense of that synergy, but I mean, it's still a lot of work for sure. Like, there's been 2 years that have passed. Like, it's still a lot of work. We don't have like perfect synergy or anything like that. We're still working really hard to try and improve it as well.
Fan, what is communication like for the team? Has the shot calling at all changed for you guys? Because we know that you guys sort of had a unique setup when you had Equinox on the team, between you, Equinox, and Michael Udall.
Yeah, so what we're doing now is, so Udall does the primary shot calling in game. You know, obviously everyone will still do fight engages and stuff like that. And I do the drafting and we still go over replays and like we try and figure out what we do wrong after every game, and then everyone inputs on like what we need to improve on. So this season we're focused on more having like a unified shot caller instead of multiple, just because we were struggling a bit in our decisiveness, especially last split, and I think it kind of hurt us a lot.
Awesome. Well, good luck with all the changes that you guys have made. It's exciting to hear that you're drafting because we could see the mid-season brawl influence definitely in you guys' drafts. Any shout-outs before we let you go?
Yeah, shout-outs to our awesome sponsors, NVIDIA, Gunners, pretty awesome, Twitch and Meta Threads. Really appreciate all of them for sponsoring us. And, of course, shout-out to Courtney, our kind of analyst, for providing us data on all the other teams and drafts and stuff. And shout out to all our fans. Hopefully, I know there's a lot of doubt people will have in general about this new GFE roster, and we're working really hard, and hopefully we can disprove some of that.
Thanks, Fan. We miss you. Feel better.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
It's weird knowing like he was literally like talking to us and working with us for like 2 weeks, and then it's just worlds apart now. Sad day.
Back on the other side.
Yeah, back to the other side, sadly. But it was nice to hear from him. It's always nice to hear from Fan. Dude's an awesome dude, and just to hear the high hopes, and just that they view it as like maybe not too much pressure on themselves, but just work together, work hard, and that's all you can ask. It's always nice to see teams just screw the pressure. We're gonna go for the grind, and hopefully it works out.
Well, I agree with you. I think there will be a little bit of pressure on Gale Force tomorrow, based on the games that we have tomorrow as we look to our matches for our final day of Week 1. Fnatic, we have yet to see them. They take on Zealots. What a 3-0 victory over Playing Ducks. What? Hello? You come into the HGC and you dominate? That's pretty cool. Also, Team Liquid versus Team Dignitas. So pumped for that one and for the next one.
We have Gale Force eSports in Roll20 to start off North America.
Yes.
And then we have got Even in Death and Tempo Storm. That one, the top of NA, depending, question mark on that, versus the bottom of North America. But before that, Roll20 and Gale Force eSports. I like that a lot.
Spicy.
Because that just the exact what I was talking about before, where it feels hard to gauge this. According to the standings before, third team versus last team, you expect that to be more dominant. So now we take what was second and third, put them already head-to-head. And if you take international performance as a gauge, technically the first seed of North America.
But that was a different team. That was a different Roll20 because now they are playing with Goku over Yoda. So every question that we have had about every single team so far except Tempo Storm, that continues tomorrow with Roll20. So pumped for tomorrow. Thank you guys for joining us. We'll see you tomorrow for the final day of HGC Week 1.
Coming at you. Since he was a child, Lucio has always believed in using music to bring people together. When the Vishkar Corporation moved in and began to exploit his community, Lucio repurposed the company's sonic technology and used it to lead an uprising. He became an overnight celebrity and started touring the world in sold-out shows to promote positive social change. Now, Lucio fights for justice as he drops the beat around the world and throughout the Nexus. Lucio is a highly mobile support hero who constantly heals or increases the movement speed of all nearby allies. Lucio is able to attack enemies while moving, and his weapon never needs to be reloaded. His trait, Wall Ride, automatically increases his movement speed and allows him to pass through units as long as he's moving next to a wall or structure. Lucio's first ability, Sound Wave, fires a sonic blast that damages and knocks back all enemies in its arc. Crossfade toggles between the two songs that Lucio is constantly playing to support himself and nearby allies. Use his speed boost song to increase movement speed, or his healing boost song to heal. When Lucio uses Amp It Up, the effect of the song he's currently playing is increased for a short period. Healing Boost heals for dramatically more per second, and Speed Boost grants allies even more movement speed. Lucio's first heroic ability, Sound Barrier, works just as it does in Overwatch, providing all nearby teammates with a powerful shield that decays over a short window of time. Reverse Amp is a more offense-oriented heroic. When cast, it applies a negative effect to all nearby enemies. This effect is the opposite of what Lucio's current song does for his allies. If he's playing Speed Boost, all nearby enemies are slowed. If he's playing Healing Boost, all nearby enemies take damage over time. This is in addition to the positive effect each song provides for his own team.
Oh, this is my jam! Pump up the volume!
When Lucio's in the mix, there's never a moment when he isn't playing one of his songs. The key is to know which song to play and when to play it. Use Crossfade to switch between them as the situation demands, keeping your teammates healed when under pressure, or helping them move around the battlefield. Crossfade has no cooldown, so you can toggle between Lucio's two songs as often as you require. Be sure to amp it up when your support is needed the most. If you're facing an enemy Lucio, focus fire and burst him down. Lucio's wall ride trait, along with his speed boost song and amp it up, give him amazing mobility. Use the environment to run circles around your enemies and push them toward your allies with Soundwave. When escaping a battle, Soundwave can also be used to create space between Lucio and his pursuer. Sound Barrier is a great defensive burst tool that can absorb high amounts of damage for your team. There's a brief delay between when you cast it and when the shields take effect, and the shields themselves only last for a short window of time, so be sure to drop the beat at precisely the right moment. If you choose the Reverse Amp Heroic, keep in mind that its effects are separate from Lucio's normal songs. When you activate Reverse Amp, Lucio's current song will continue to benefit his allies. Keep in mind that Reverse Amp doesn't benefit from Amp It Up in any way. Be sure to continue using Amp It Up to help your team instead of trying to use it to hinder your enemies. Lucio is an electronic musician extraordinaire whose sick beats both empower his team and help drive them to victory.
I'm out. Peace.